This is your weekly report on corruption in the Philippine government. 6 members of the Caloocan City Police's Anti-Illegal Drugs Unit were recommended to be dismissed from service by the Philippine National Police, Internal Affairs Service, PNPIAS, for allegedly assaulting a sidewalk vendor and robbing his ayuda worth 14,000 pesos in March. In a report Friday, the 3rd of June, PNPIAS Chief Alfredo Triambulo said he recommended the dismissal of Corporals Noel Espajosison, 33, Rommel Toribio, 29, Ryan Sammy Gomez Mateo, 32, Jake Barsanilla Rosima, 35, Mark Christian Abarca Cabanilla, 31, and Darrell Calajasable, 29, who are all members of the Caloocan City Police Drug Enforcement Unit, DEU. The suspects were found guilty of administrative charges for grave misconduct and conduct unbecoming of a police officer, according to Triambulo. They were also facing a criminal charge for robbery which was filed by the victim, Eddie Yuson, 39. According to the PNPI's investigation, Yuson, 39, was walking along Barangay 117, Caloocan City on the 27th of March to buy food for his family after obtaining cash assistance from the government when he was approached by the suspects. Yuson was then frisked by the suspects before being allegedly assaulted and robbed of his cash as they boarded a white pickup truck to escape. Yuson is a widow and a single parent to 4 children. The Sandigan convicted a former provincial governor of graft over the anomalous purchase of fertilizers worth 4.9 million pesos in 2004. In its decision dated the 3rd of June, the Anti-Graft Court's 2nd Division sentenced former Quirino Governor Pedro Bacanatan up to 8 years in prison for violation of Republic Act 3019 or the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. 2 private individuals, Edalberto and Kevin Apostol, both officials of fertilizer supplier Acame Marketing International, who were implicated in the transactions, remain at large. The case stemmed from the purchase of 2 batches of fertilizers totaling more than 2,000 kilos in 2004 from Acame for implementation of the province's Farm Inputs and Farm Implements program. The Ombudsman found, however, that the transaction did not undergo public bidding. The absence of a competitive public bidding resulted in giving unwarranted benefits, advantage and preference to the supplier, the court said. The Office of the Ombudsman, OMB, has ordered the suspension of Anti-Red Tape Authority, ARTA, Director General Jeremiah Belgica and 4 other officials for alleged irregular practices. Aside from Belgica, also suspended for 6 months by Ombudsman Samuel Martires were ARTA Deputy Director General Eduardo Bringas, Division Chief Cheryl Pura Sumagit, Director Jedrican and Director Melanie Salvadora Aspirin. The order was issued on the 24th of May, 2022. Charges of grave misconduct, gross neglect of duty and conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service were filed against Belgica and his subordinates. The case stemmed from the complaint of Dito Telecommunity, Inc. over the grant of frequencies to Now Telecom Company. Now Telecom purchased bidding documents for the selection of a 3rd major player based on the directive of the National Telecommunications Commission and the 20th of September 18. Now did not participate in the selection process, but in 2020, it filed a complaint against NTC Commissioner Gamaliel Cordova before the ARTA, seeking the automatic approval of its requests for frequency assignment that had already been assigned to Dito. ARTA issued an order for the assignment of contingent frequencies for Now Telecom, a move questioned by Dito and the NTC. The Ombudsman, in its order, said that the guilt of the respondents is strong and the charges against them may warrant removal from office. The 6 months preventive suspension is necessary for the Ombudsman to secure the documents and to prevent possible harassment of witnesses, and considering further that the continued stay of the 5 ARTA directors in office may prejudice a case filed against them, the OMB said. A village councillor, husband of their incumbent barangay chair, was gunned down by riding in tandem suspects in front of the barangay hall in Magsaysay Sur here at around 7:50 p.m. Monday. A police report on Tuesday identified the victim as Ronald Castillo, 51, husband of Jacqueline Castillo, chairperson of the village. Witnesses said the victim, himself a former village chief, was talking to a local peacekeeper by the roadside when the suspects arrived and shot him repeatedly using a short firearm. The suspects were described only as both wearing white t-shirts. The victim was rushed to nearby Wesleyan Hospital but was declared dead upon arrival by an attending physician. The suspects immediately fled on board a motorcycle, heading towards the north, the police reported. Probers, however, have yet to establish the motive behind the killing. The Office of the Ombudsman has indicted dozens of Bureau of Immigration officials and staff over the pastillas bribery scheme, where foreigners were allegedly whisked past airport counters in exchange for money. The scam was the subject of hearings at the Senate, which looked into whether it had been used for sex trafficking and for letting Philippine offshore gambling operations workers into the Philippines. President Rodrigo Duterte summoned the immigration officials to Malacanang for a dressing down and incorrectly claimed at his last State of the Nation address on the 20th of July 21 that they had already been fired. The ombudsman said that the bribery scheme allowed the entry of foreign passengers into the country without going through regular and stringent profiling or screening processes in violation of existing immigration rules and procedures, to the prejudice of the government and public interest. Bail for the 43 immigration officials and staff indicted has been recommended to be set at 90,000 pesos each. The ombudsman said that the pastilla scam involved collecting 10,000 pesos from 143 foreign passengers, particularly from Chinese nationals, to be let through the immigration checks at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. The money was said to have been wrapped in paper, like the pastilla sweets. Foreigners were referred to the immigration officers by bosses or Chinese suppliers who got the names from travel agencies. The ombudsman also said the operations of the pastilla scheme, including client lists, were discussed in Viber groups that were also run by immigration personnel. The scam was done with the help of Chinese interpreters, who received a share of the grease money, and of Empire International Travel and Tours, which provided the client list to the immigration officers and staff. The Supreme Court, SE, has affirmed the conviction by the Sandigan of a former vice mayor in Iloilo province for graft and falsification in connection with a spurious council resolution passed in 1996 to authorize quarrying. The SC's second division dismissed the appeal filed by ex-Mazin Vice Mayor Arnaldo Partisala, who was charged in 1999 for making it appear that a municipal resolution was passed to authorize private individual Helen Lee Tan's firm to engage in massive quarrying in the guise of rechanneling the Tigum River. Also sued were former Mayor Rene Mondaja, Sangguniang Bayan Secretary Francisco Tolentino, and Sangguniang members Ildefonso Espejo, Margarita Gumapos, Manuel Pialo, Roberto Velasco. Residents of Barangay Mabini Rizal sued them over the destruction of the river due to quarrying activities in Barangay Naslo. In 1997, the provincial government said Mazin violated ordinances by quarrying without the necessary permit from the governor. Tan was acquitted in 2016 for the failure of the prosecution to prove conspiracy beyond reasonable doubt. Partisala was meted out a sentence of up to 8 years imprisonment and a fine of 5,000 pesos. He previously failed to appear during arraignment and was later apprehended, allowing the Sandigan Bayan to resume the trial. The other co-accused was sentenced by the Sandigan Bayan to up to 10 years in prison. In upholding Partisala's conviction on the 2nd of June, the High Court considers as conclusive the factual findings of the Sandigan Bayan as it had the better opportunity to examine and evaluate the evidence presented before it. Angelica de la Cruz, barangay captain of Longos, Malabon, expressed her dismay over Philippine politics after she received a death threat that came with 4 gun bullets. The actress politician showed a photo of the torn letter warning her through her Facebook page yesterday, the 7th of June. Philippine politics is really messy. This letter along with the bullets was sent to our barangay XO, which says that 4 people will be next and that an unknown individual is roaming around our house. Whoever you are, this is too much. It is not immediately known if De La Cruz will take actions over the death threat, as she did not give further details on her post. She then received messages of support from netizens who are hoping for her safety via the comments section. 2 barangay employees of Paho, Lapu-Lapu City, tested positive for illegal drugs in a random drug test that was held on Monday, the 6th of June, 2022. This was confirmed by Gary Leo, head of the City of Lapu-Lapu Office for Substance Abuse Prevention. Leo said that around 120 employees in Barangay Paho have submitted themselves to the drug test, including Paho Barangay Captain Lindel Bullis. Unfortunately, there are 2 full employees in the barangay who were found out to be positive of shabu. I have already informed the captain of the result of the drug test, Leo said. Leo, however, said that he would leave it to the barangay captain what sanction to impose on the erring employees. Surigao del Sur Rep and former local water utilities administration chairman Prospero Piche Jr. was found guilty of 3 counts of graft by the Sandigan Bayan 4th Division for the misuse of 780 million pesos of funds of the utilities agency in 2009. In the decision of the anti-graft court promulgated on the 7th of June, 2022, Piche and former acting Deputy Administrator of Investments and Financial Services Wilfredo Felia Jr., who was likewise convicted by the anti-graft court, were sentenced to 6 to 10 years imprisonment for each of the 3 counts of graft, as well as perpetual disqualification from public office. In the information filed by the Ombudsman before the Sandiganbayan, Piche and other LWUA officials gave undue advantage to Express Savings Bank Incorporated, an insolvent bank owned by the Welux Group and Forum Pacific. A total of 700 million pesos of LWUA funds were deposited to SB in 2 tranches under Piche's chairmanship. Some 445,377 shares of stocks in SB amounting to 80 million pesos were also purchased by LWUA, resulting in its control of at least 60% of the voting stock. All transactions were without the necessary approval from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the Department of Finance. In its ruling, the court noted that LWUA was already getting gentle reminders from the BSP and the DOF to secure proper approval from the Monetary Board. The Court of Appeals has affirmed the conviction of retired Army Major General Jovito Palparan, who was convicted in 2018 for the kidnapping of 2 disappeared University of the Philippines, UP, students, and modified the interest of the penalty, in view whereof, the joint decision of the Regional Trial Court, Branch 15, Malolos City in criminal cases numbers 3905 M 2011 and 3906 M 2011 are hereby affirmed with modification as to penalty and interest only. Accused appellants are sentenced to the penalty of reclusion perpetual without eligibility for parole. The damages imposed are subject to 6% interest per annum from the date of finality of this decision until full payment of the same. The decision read, aside from Palparan, the accused appellants are Lieutenant Colonel Felipe Anatado and Staff Sergeant Ajardo Osorio. In criminal case numbers 3905 M 2011 and 3906 M 2011, the 3 accused appellants and Major Sergeant Rizal Hilario were charged for the kidnapping and serious illegal detention of UP students Karen Empino and Sherlyn Cadapan, respectively. The decision cited Article 267 of the Revised Penal Code, RPC, which states that penalty of reclusion perpetua to death if the kidnapping or detention lasted for more than 3 days and when the victims are females. It also noted that applying Article 63 of the RPC, the penalty imposed should be death as allegations of taking advantage of nighttime and use of a motor vehicle were proven during trial. However, with the prohibition on the imposition of the death penalty, the penalty must be reclusion perpetua without eligibility for parole, the decision said. Whistleblower Rodolfo John Lozada Jr. voluntarily surrendered to the National Bureau of Investigation, NBI, on Thursday, according to Bureau spokesperson Ferdinand Lavin. Yes, we confirm that John Lozada is in the custody of the NBI, still checking on other details, Lavin told the Inquirer in a Viber message. Lozada, along with his brother Orlando, turned himself into the NBI after the Sandiganbayan reportedly issued an arrest warrant against them in connection with the Supreme Court decision affirming their conviction for a land deal involving the state-owned Philippine Forest Corporation, PFC, in a ruling dated the 28th of July, 2021, but made public only recently on its website. The Supreme Court denied the Lozada brothers' petition for review of the Sandiganbayan decision, finding them guilty of graft and sentencing them to 10 years imprisonment and perpetual disqualification from holding public office. A family member of Lozada, who requested anonymity, also confirmed that Lozada and his brother are now at the NBI office along Taft in Manila. The relative, who claimed they learned of Lozada surrendering to the NBI only in the news, was also asking for prayers for the kid's safety. Last week, Lozada, an IT expert and former president and CEO of the PFC, said he has no regrets for siding with the truth even as the Supreme Court affirmed his conviction. My enemies made good with their threats that they will make me regret telling the truth, Lozada said in a statement addressed to his family and friends and informing them with sadness that the High Court had denied his appeal. Yes, they succeeded in sending me to prison, but they will not succeed in making me regret my decision to side with the truth and the people. I will not regret my decision to side with the truth, he said. He asked his family and friends to accompany me with your prayers, and thanked them for their support. It was Lozada who blew the whistle on the supposed cost padding and bribery involved in the NBNZTE deal, which was to have resulted in a telecommunications network linking government offices nationwide. His testimony at a Senate inquiry in 2008, in which he tagged then-President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo and her husband as the masterminds behind the NBNZTE crime, led to the cancellation of the deal. He also testified that then Commission on Elections Chair Benjamin Abalos Sr. stood to gain a huge commission from the deal. 4 years after his testimony, the Sandiganbayan filed graft charges against Lozada and his brother. That's all for this week. I'll see you next week with more stories of corruption and foolishness within the Philippine government.